Hey guys, I'm really excited to share today's guest. It is my client Andrew, and Andrew and myself have been working together for over 2 months now with my online program, and he's gotten some amazing results in that time. Before we do jump into today's episode though, I just want you to know that I'm currently enrolling for my signature online program, the Strong for Life Blueprint. This is specifically for guys over 30 who want to get strong, lean and pain-free without wasting hours at the gym each week. So if this is something that you want to learn more about, just click the sign up form below, pop in your details, and I'll be in contact with you as soon as possible. So let's jump into today's episode. So today I'm really excited to share one of my client stories. I'm joined by Andrew, who's been working with me for the last few months online. So Andrew, first of all, thanks for taking time out of your evening. And do you want to introduce yourself, tell people listening a bit about who you are, what you do, and where you're based in the world?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Connor. My name's Andrew. I live in Braidwood, or just outside of Braidwood, which is a small town partway between Canberra and the coast in Australia. We've got a small farm, and I also work in the health sector. So I do that at the moment 3 days a week, and just about to start getting a bit more mobile and heading into offices occasionally after a couple of years of working from home.
Great. How old are you now, Andrew?
51.
Yeah, 51. Great. So why don't we talk a bit about where you were before you started a program, how things felt, and just maybe go into detail with that for people listening.
Sure. Yeah. Look, I probably wasn't a beacon of good health. So there'd been a couple of things go on here. So in addition to COVID, which knocked everyone around the world for a couple of years, we also had some pretty serious bushfires just before that. So my community was sort of surrounded by them for about 3 months, which was not a great thing for anyone. I guess in the lead up to that, I had previously been quite fit and active. But when that sort of hit, and I don't know if anyone's lived through a whole lot of bushfires, but the smoke, it means that you can't be outside exercising, really. I'm also, to be perfectly honest, someone who, if there's an excuse to stop exercising, I'll use it. And a whole lot of things just accumulated. So I'd really got slack in my exercise program. And also, like so many people, being locked at home, lucky enough to have good supplies. So there was too much eating and too much drinking. So and I was working really long hours as well. So put that all together, I'd really let myself go, I suppose is a fair thing to say. And I was feeling that as well. So it's interesting how that sort of creeps up on you. And yeah, I remembered thinking about, well, I've turned 50 now, I could just give into it. And then one day it's like, no, I'm not going to give into this. I'm going to do something about it. And so last year tried to do that, started to get a bit more active, then injured my hand. So I couldn't actually do what I'd planned to do. So that was another kind of excuse to not too much. And then as that healed, I think, the final insult, and again, I wonder how many other people can relate to this, was when I did have to go to a face-to-face meeting with our board, and I started putting on my suits. It's like, these don't even fit anymore. And I can either go and buy a new suit, or I can make a bit of a lifestyle change. And I knew that's what I needed to do.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a lot of points there that I think a lot of people listening will be able to resonate with. I was actually having a conversation with someone last week about this. At certain points, sometimes people would be like, "Oh, yeah, well, this is just the way it is now." And sometimes, if you're in your 50s or in your 60s, and it's almost like just kind of giving in, even though it's not the case at all. So yeah, first of all, I'm delighted that you took action to make the change, but also I guess that kind of accumulatory effect of just little decisions, and then COVID, and then a lot of high workload, stress. You tried, and then you got hurt, and then it just enough things to kind of tilt tip you, consistently in the wrong direction. And then, yeah, 2-3 years down the line, you're kind of in a position where you're in that situation with the suits, and you're kind of, that was your crossroads. Essentially, you can be like, oh, I'll just get a new suit and just keep doing what I'm doing, or I'll actually take action and change things back in the direction that I want them to go in, right?
Yeah, I was actually in the shops shopping for suits, and then I just said, no, I am not going to do this. I know this stuff. I should be better at this. So that was good.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about maybe before you joined the program? It is an online program, so things that you were maybe skeptical about, unsure of, maybe a bit worried about, because again,
Yeah,
online there's a lot of unknowns before you come into a program. So do you
yeah,
want to maybe touch on that?
sure. Look, I guess living in a rural area, I had done some online training before, so I was familiar and comfortable with that, and I'd used different apps. But I had also seen and been involved with things that you pay your money and then you get a cookie cutter sort of program, and that's okay if you're really highly motivated, I suppose, and if you've got a sense of what to look out for, what injuries you might get from it. But I knew that wasn't going to meet my needs. So when in fact, it was from signing up to GMB when I tried to do some more exercise through that just before I injured my hand, and that's where we connected, Connor. And so that was a great connection for me, because I thought anyone who's involved with GMB is a good person and knows their stuff.
Yeah.
There's kind of a point of trust, because doing something online, I mean, the reality is anyone can set themselves up, can't they, as an online anything almost. So that connection was really important. But I was also, I think, skeptical, just being the age I am now and having done this kind of thing previously. I was probably clearer in what I wanted now as well. So I wasn't looking for anyone who was going to be really dogmatic, and who wasn't going to be flexible, who wasn't going to listen to what I wanted to achieve, who was going to insist on a whole lot of just things I didn't want to do. And because, as I've said, I'm someone who will look for any excuse to not exercise. If there are a whole lot of things in there that were unappealing to me, I knew I wouldn't do it. So that wouldn't work as well. But what I was really pleased about is your flexible approach, the science and research behind the approach as well. And you reference that all the time, which is great. And also, I looked on your website and seen some of the older clients that you work with as well. And following you on Facebook, and I just had a sense there were a couple of comments that you made that really resonated, and they were not about being dogmatic. It's around being real, and that life happens, and you've kind of got to fit in. You've got to fit your habits and behaviours in with life as well. I mean, it's a fine balance because you're trying to change things, but very few of us are in the luxurious position of being able to just cancel everything that they've previously done and got on their agenda. So it was very flexible and real, but based on science and evidence too.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, of course, if you just eliminate every, bad food, quote unquote, and train 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, of course you'll get results. But the 1% of people, 99% of people are going to fail miserably doing that method, and it just doesn't work. So yeah, I'm glad that you touched on all that. What would you say has been your biggest breakthrough to date since joining the program?
Look, it's definitely around habits. So habit and behavior change. So I'm much more consistent with the exercise I want to do. And, I actually do get up in the morning and go for walks. I get my 10,000 steps most of the time, weather permitting. And I've cut back on the alcohol that I drink quite dramatically, much better nutrition. And again, I knew all of this. I just didn't do it. And that's actually one of the things that you mentioned. I can't remember where it was, but it was just that difference between knowing something and mastering it. And that really resonated for me too, because you know, I knew what I needed to do, but I wasn't mastering it. And I needed some help to do that. But I guess also in saying that, I knew the very basic level of what I needed to do. I needed some particular help to fit in with my current goals and where I was starting from.
Yeah, yeah. I think again, you know what you're saying. It's not. It's very obvious. I think a lot of people out there, myself included, we might do certain things and we know it's not the best way to get the results we're looking for, but we still don't do the thing that we know we should be doing. And that's the question I asked you was like, do if or why aren't you doing it already, the thing that you think you know, and then are your results actually showing that you have mastered this thing that you claim you know about? Because I think with information, with the internet, you've heard or you've come across a lot of the stuff in the program, if not most parts of the program, I'm sure, but it's just
Yeah.
have you applied it? Have you actually spent
Yeah.
time focusing on mastering it? I think that's the key that is missing from a lot of people's training.
And
Do
I
you?
think just related, oh, sorry
No,
to
no, no.
cut you off.
Continue,
I
please.
think
Yeah.
I think related to that too is that there can be a temptation, or at least I've been tempted in the past when I've just had apps or things, is to rip through something really quickly because I don't have a lot of time. So I'll do those exercises really fast. Well, this one's a bit boring. I'll just, cut back a little or not do it properly. And that comment really made me stop and think that even if I'm, there might be a particular exercise I'm a bit sick of or don't feel like doing at that point, or like it's not about rushing through and just getting as many reps or the highest weight. It's actually around trying to master the movement. So it's just slowed me down as well. And I guess maybe one of the nice things about being older for me is that I just know that this is part of an ongoing journey. So there's actually no need to rush. I learned
Yes.
that lesson previously.
Yeah, that is such a massive point. Thank you for saying that, because it is. Yeah, you if you start thinking in 4 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, getting to your 12 weeks so then you can stop, getting to your goal so you can stop,
Yeah.
like that's just not a helpful framework to think in. It's like, as you said, this is, you're in your early 50s and it's like, well, this is what I'm doing now until the end, really,
Yeah.
um and obviously I don't expect you to be in the program for the next 40 years, but for yourself, you're learning the systems to implement for yourself, and then you have the autonomy to follow them yourself going forwards.
Yes.
Do you want to touch on maybe some results you've experienced so far? I know you're talking about your mindset shift and looking at habits and
Yeah.
the sustainability of things, but maybe some other results that you've felt have been beneficial to you.
Yeah. Look, it's just in terms of physical changes. So I haven't been doing the program for that long. It's only a couple of months, but I would definitely say I notice a difference in my posture. So I am tall and thin, and the ectomorph that was in the video that I watched today, and it's I work at a desk, so I'm always hunched over. When you're really tall as well, you spend a lot of the day hunching down, listening to try and talk to people. So, but my posture has changed, and I know that's a result from not just the exercise or the weight bearing exercise, but at least you built into my program, a whole lot of flexibility work, and that's been great. In fact, I really enjoy doing those parts of the program,
Right.
because that is exactly what I needed. And especially I think I was going to say COVID and the lockdowns have made that worse because a lot of us were just sitting in front of screens. But having said that, before we were, people like me in office jobs spending a lot of time in the car. So, it's all hunching. Look, the other thing, I mentioned the suit trousers before, and I did a test before this. I can fit comfortably into my suit trousers now. So that's a good thing.
That's awesome.
So I won't, there's a little way to go, but I'm talking about maybe half a centimetre could be, so, that's actually pretty good. I don't have to worry about bursting the waistband when I next
Yeah,
put them
buying a
on.
new suit or anything. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
brilliant, mate. Do you want to talk? You don't have to share this, but I think I remember a few weeks ago you were saying about, I think you were saying you had a stressful day. Normally you would go and have alcohol and you kind of
Yeah.
went for it wasn't the perfect option, but you made a better decision. Do you want to maybe touch on that?
Yeah, sure. So I remember we just got in a habit of drinking at the end of the day, and I know I'm not alone in that. So at the end of every day, I guess it was the main focus is, okay, let's open a bottle of wine or a gin and tonic or whatever was going, and I was always there up for it. Uh, and I guess during those couple of difficult years, it's a source of comfort, and also it really, yeah, and people often do that to help to self sort of medicate for anxiety, and they were anxious, difficult times.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I knew that it's not healthy. It's not a good thing to do. I had previously not been a daily drinker. I'd actually been quite strict with myself. So I knew I could change it, and I did, and it was something. It wasn't even hard. That's what surprised me. But I did find a compromise, which was zero alcohol beer. And strangely, I never drank a lot of beer before this, but one zero alcohol beer is perfect at the end of the day. It still has that sort of ritual of it's the end of the day, and I can sit down and be social with my partner, or while I'm cooking dinner or something like that. But the benefits are zero alcohol, and I only want one, whereas alcoholic drinks tend to be quite moreish, at least for me anyway. So I'm really glad to have cut that back. I'm not overzealous about it. So if friends come around, I'll have a drink. If on the weekends, I'll have a drink. But I also have cut that back quite a bit. So I really drew on a couple of the things that I think I've either read in your posts or conversations that we might have had, just about, also if you're going to do something sort of, at least something like that, at least enjoy it. Don't do it mindlessly. It's like mindless eating or mindless kind of drinking just out of habit. Do it because actually some friends have come around and you haven't seen them for 2 years and they've brought a bottle of champagne. That's, that just put it in perspective.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that was a big change for me.
Yeah. Value-based decision making. So, like you just said, getting into the habit, and especially I've talked to a lot of people, myself included, like not big drinkers. And then since COVID, you just get into a pattern really. And it's kind of a mindless pattern. It alleviates that anxiety or worry or whatever is going on in your head. And then you're just kind of in a loop for 2 years, and it's just the thing that you do now. It's like your common day to day. But as you said, just switching from not being perfect, so you're not going from boozing every day to drinking water. You're just making an incremental positive change that you don't feel you're being deprived by doing, and then you have space then to make value-based decisions. So if your friends come over, you can be like, yeah, we're gonna enjoy a bottle of wine, a bottle of champagne, and not feel like I'm a bad person because I'm doing that, because you're not spending all your time, it's not every night now, it's just special occasions and more of a ritual around it. So that's huge, especially from a sustainability point of view as well, with your decision making around alcohol. So yeah, I'm glad that you shared that. Okay.
Yeah.
Last question. Who would you recommend the program for?
Look, it's almost thinking about who wouldn't I recommend the program to, because it's actually hard to think of who specifically I would recommend to. I mean, and I think the key thing is you do need to have some honesty and a little bit of self-discipline. I mean, your program and your coaching certainly helps with that self-discipline. But when I mean honesty, you've got to have a base level of honesty with yourself. Because, I've had people say to me, oh, your trainer's in Perth or, Ireland.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
I'm
not
not.
going to
I'm
know
not
if you have a
calling
drink.
in. I'm not calling
And
into your house.
I'm like, well, that's not the point. I've signed up to this for me, so I might say that I might perhaps use that as a reason why, stop pouring me drinks or anything. But, so you've got to have that little bit of self-discipline. And if you're someone that has absolutely no self-discipline, then you might struggle. But most people, if you're motivated enough to be looking at a video like this, to have been looking at your website or looking around at what the alternatives are, you would get in a groove. And I think actually one of the other important things to say is, and what I've really appreciated is, like I said, your flexibility around goals. So there's a lot in the fitness market which is very much maybe tailored towards younger people who can get great results, or people with that body type. There are some lucky people with that amazing body type that pack on the muscle really easily. But you've been really flexible. So for someone who wants some flexibility, and it's okay for me to say, I don't want to do fasting. I'm an ectomorph. I get really, I will binge. I know I will. So, and like, that's fine. So, and I guess I'd say if someone hasn't done any online work before, don't let that stop you, because it's actually, there's so many different mechanisms to communicate that I actually, not only do I feel quite in touch and connected, but I really, enormously value having access to your expertise and the group's expertise. And, at the end of a dirt road in effectively the middle of nowhere. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is fantastic. That's great, Andrew. Well, look, I really appreciate you taking time out of your evening, and thanks for sharing your results and your story so far.
No worries. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Connor.